Hello. Before we begin, I want to invite our Spanish-speaking community members to click the globe button at the bottom of the Zoom screen and choose Spanish, the Spanish option, to hear the forum in that language.
Antes de comenzar, voy a pedir al público en español, dentro de un momento, cuando se habilita, van a ver un globo al pie de su pantalla y quiero que presionen español para poder escuchar la interpretación. And the interpretation is about to be enabled. It's not enabled yet.
Welcome to the State House District 11 Republican Primary Candidate Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Boulder County. My name is Martine Eleanor, and I am a proud member of the League. I am pleased to serve as moderator for tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. For over 100 years, we have encouraged informed and active participation in government and influenced public policy through education and advocacy. To remain nonpartisan, the League never supports or opposes political candidates or parties. We are pleased tonight to have as our Spanish language interpreters, Rosabel, Armando, and Catherine. The Colorado House of Representatives is the lower house of the Colorado General Assembly. The House is composed of 65 members from an equal number of constituent districts, with each district having a population of about 88,800 people. Representatives are elected to 2-year terms and are limited to 4 consecutive terms in office, but can run again after a 4-year respite. The legislative session begins no later than the second Wednesday in January and lasts up to 120 days. House District 11 includes most of Longmont, east of 75th Street, and north to Highway 66, west of Pace Street, south to Highway 119, and then west of County Line Road. Now to the forum. The forum for tonight's forum, or the format for tonight's forum, will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. We will then ask the candidates as many questions as time permits. Questions have been submitted electronically to the League by the community and reviewed by our League of Women Voters volunteer screeners. For most questions, each candidate will have up to 1 minute. However, I may expand the time to answer depending on the question. We will finish with 1-minute closing statements. Tonight's forum participants are, in the order they appear on the Republican primary ballot, Kathy Reeves and Terry Goon. Now to the opening statements and questions. Please watch the timer and end when your time is up. I'm going to display the timer just so everyone sees what it looks like. If you are mid-sentence when your time is up, please promptly finish that sentence so we can move on to the next candidate. For the opening statements, we will begin with candidate Reeves.
All right, thank you. And thank you for hosting this candidate forum. I'm a Colorado native with a love for Longmont and also for the entire state of Colorado. My career was in IT with Hewlett-Packard and also with State Farm Insurance. And as a mother and a grandmother, I'm very invested in the well-being of this great republic and this great state as well. I would like the opportunity to safeguard primarily these 4 things: our borders, because In Colorado, human trafficking, fentanyl deaths, theft, and other crimes have increased dramatically due to our open borders. Our families, because they are the most important building block of a free society. Our rights, because they are God-given and Constitution protected. Time's up. Okay.
Candidate Goon.
Thank you. And yes, I'd like to thank you all as well for holding these. I think they're very important. My view of the state legislature is that it has overreached during the time that I've lived in Colorado. I grew up here since I was, well, 1969. I've been here in Colorado, and I watched the legislature grow and grow and grow. And as people want to do good, they are always thinking of ways to overregulate, to make new rules, to try to fix the problems. And I don't believe that's the purpose of government. The purpose of government is to protect our individual rights. And at the state level, it's also to deal with our infrastructure, our roads and our bridges and that sort of thing. I think that by involving itself more and more into people's lives, it causes more rancor and more disconnect. People become less involved, and they expect the government to fix everything, and it can't.
For the first question, we'll start with candidate Goon. Regarding your approach to the legislative process, what are your thoughts on encouraging bipartisanship, and how will you work with members of the other party to accomplish your goals?
Well, I live in Boulder County, so I am a bit of a minority, being so libertarian minded here. And I have a lot of friends who are Democrats, and I know how to have discussions with people and how to talk about things that the legislature does in ways that help people to understand why someone else might think differently. I've been on different boards and commissions, same kind of thing, where I've brought up the other side in a way that the other side can hear what my side is thinking as well, so that it allows two groups to come together in a more proactive way to come up with answers and solutions. So I've had practice at it, in other words. Thanks.
Candidate Reeves.
I would say also collaboration is very important. And one example would be when you have groups that basically want the same end result. Maybe they think that to achieve that result, you need to come at it from different ways or have different solutions. But through discussion, as long as everyone's willing to listen to the other side, compromise can be reached, and that can be very helpful. Actually, I believe that there are liberal thinkers and conservative thinkers on both sides of the aisle. So it's not really about parties. It's about what is best for the people.
Should the legislature encourage population growth, manage population trends, or actively try to reduce population? Candidate Reeves.
Well, I think population growth, when not hindered, is going to happen naturally. So I hesitate to say we should encourage population growth. Now, if you're talking about should certain cities be able to limit the number of people living in their city, it really depends. Boulder's had a situation where they've been felt like they had used up most of their land, but now they're coming up with ideas for smaller, more affordable homes. And so they're able to accommodate more people. And, various communities are really looking to have more businesses, more employees to grow their economy. So it should be tailored to the various communities. Thank you.
And I would say, oh, I need to wait for the timer.
Candidate Goon.
And I would say that no, the legislature doesn't have any, shouldn't have any say in population growth. We've got certain limits here, depending upon water, for instance, and land use, that sort of thing. And of course, based on the infrastructure and the tax dollars that are brought in to maintain that field, it becomes a natural stopping point. Right now, we've got some very high housing prices, and that causes people not to move here. And that's just a natural thing. Of course, currently the whole situation is interwoven with government regulations and things like that. But naturally, if the government stays out of like housing and population growth, things will occur naturally as needed.
Do you support state control over local government zoning decisions? If so, under what circumstances should the state override the local government planning process? Candidate Goon.
I do not believe the state should control local zoning issues. The best government is the one that's closest to the people, and that is the local. That's the local zones. It's not at the state level. Everything is different in a big state like Colorado. We've got rural and urban and the whole mix, and we've got people that move to different spots in the state for certain reasons that at the state level, they don't necessarily know why, or what were the original plans for that particular area, the reason why the people moved there. And so it ends up they interfere with local zoning patterns, and that's beyond their scope of what they should be doing.
Candidate Reeves.
I have to completely agree with candidate Goon on this one. State should not be involved at the local level in zoning. And for all the reasons she mentioned, out in the Western Slope, out in the ranching areas, zoning is going to look very different than in the heart of Denver. So I agree.
What do you consider a fair tax system for Colorado? What changes would you make in the current system, including revenue sources? Candidate Reeves.
Well, I think sometimes government wants to jump right in there and, oh, this isn't, working exactly right, or maybe it is, but we want to fix it anyway. So I think we need to take a pause and just look at what we're doing with taxes, look at where the money's going, try to stop the wasteful spending, and then maybe take a look at, okay, now that we've rearranged some things, what can we do to decrease taxes?
Candidate.
Yield the rest of my time there.
Candidate Goon.
There's so many different taxes within the state government. Let's start with state income tax. That should always be a flat tax as far as I'm concerned, versus based on income, so nobody is ever penalized for earning more income, that sort of thing. Houses, of course, if you've got a bigger, more expensive house, then the percentage that you're paying on a house is going to be higher. So that's natural. I'm with Kathy on the fact that government is involved in too many things, and so they tax. We're grateful. I am grateful that we have the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, so it puts a stop on certain taxes that would automatically be increasing. And I would like to see the legislature stop trying to go around Tabor constantly, because every session they try to do that.
Many are concerned with the rising costs to rent in Colorado. Do you think city councils should make policy decisions in regards to rent? Candidate Goon.
I do not. No, not at all. I believe in the purpose of government is to protect individual rights, and the cost of rent is not a right that we have to make it affordable. We don't have a right to cheap rent in your house. I don't have a right to cheap rent in your house. And that's essentially what government tries to do by creating rent control sort of policies. They should make it more, they should reduce the amount of regulation so that building housing can be done more cheaply. And that way there would be a variety of types of housing that would allow for different rents that would be out there. Thank you.
Candidate Reeves.
No, the state should not be doing that, and repealing the state prohibition on rent control is something that people have been trying to do. Largely Democrats have been trying to do since 2016. I've seen the bill proposed over and over again, and I don't agree with it. And the state, the city, the county, none of them should control the cost of private property, the cost of rent on private property. And if the government would stay out of it, the supply and demand would take care of that. As there's more supply with less government regulation, then the prices will come down.
How would you improve preschool through 12 education funding in Colorado? Do you advocate for a voucher system? Candidate Reeves.
You know, at first glance, I really loved the voucher system. I really felt that parochial schools, charter schools, private schools, public schools, wherever people choose to send their children, should get the funding. But then I realized that government doesn't just hand out money without any regulation and control. I don't think that a homeschool should be told what they can or cannot teach, or a Christian school. Private schools are private for a reason, and so they'll have to be funded without that government voucher, I'm afraid.
Candidate Goon.
And as a legislature, I would try to get that into the legislation that yes, the money should follow the student, and you try to keep the government out of it as much as possible. It's probably impossible. Kathy's right about that. The more government involvement that you have in people's lives, the more that they set rules that are not necessarily good for the time, the space, the child, the whole thing. But I think it's better than what we have now. So thank you. Yeah, I would definitely approve of a voucher system.
Do you agree or disagree with any of the governor's recent vetoes of the bills that the legislature has passed this session? Candidate Goon.
One of the things that he vetoed, which I found interesting, was the fair wages or the wage theft bill that he vetoed that had to do with subcontractors, where contractors were going to be liable for what the subcontractors were doing. And I thought that was very smart because it will increase the price of housing. And I know that that's one of his main issues is the price of housing in Colorado and how it's gone up. But if you leave the contractors liable for what the subcontractors are necessarily doing as far as wages are concerned, that made sense to me for him to veto that. Thanks.
Candidate Reeves.
Excuse me just a minute here. Anyway, yes, I have been looking at those vetoes, but I'm not recalling right now exactly which of those I may agree or disagree with. So I'm going to take a pass on this one.
What is your position on the state controlling the approval of accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs? Candidate Reeves.
Well, again, state control isn't a good idea. Different communities have different needs, different availability of houses and space to put ADUs. So that needs to be local in the city or in the county.
Candidate Goon.
Yeah, I agree with Kathy on this. Similar to what was asked earlier, the state government should have less oversight into what local affairs are going on. I know in Longmont itself, which is where we would be representing, they have restrictions on how many ADUs in the neighborhood, and I think that has made the populace overall happier than random ADUs popping up all over the place that turned into party houses and noise problems and things like that. And well, I am very libertarian minded, so I don't necessarily agree that the local government should be doing that. That is where it belongs, if it's going to belong anywhere, is at the local level, not at the state level.
Should the influx of migrants into Colorado, especially to the Denver area, be aided at the state level rather than depleting the funds of the cities bearing the brunt of their costs? Candidate Goon.
At this stage of the game, I believe because, well, this is a huge problem, right? This is a national problem with illegal immigration in particular, not necessarily legal immigration, but with the illegal immigration, Denver stated that it was a sanctuary city. And so by saying that, they're basically saying to states like Texas, okay, you don't want these illegal immigrants there in your state, send them to us and we will welcome them. And so I believe it's up to the city to come up with the funds to take care of that situation. Nationally, I do believe the federal government is responsible for the borders. That's one of their primary responsibilities for the Constitution. But locally, because Denver claimed that it was a sanctuary city, then I believe that they should be covering those costs.
Candidate Reeves.
Yes, I agree with Terry, and I would say, in my opinion, Denver shouldn't be a sanctuary city. The federal government has failed. Now they had that choice, okay, but then don't push it off on the rest of the citizens out in rural Colorado or wherever they might be, other cities that did not vote for that. Also, no mentions made there about the crime that's a result. No mentions made about the single military age men that are coming in. We don't know why. Or how about the cost to the whole nation? Right now, each household is paying $1,000 to $1,500 a year, 120 to 150 billion a year due to the migrants, the illegal immigration. Now, legal immigration was wonderful. People wanted to be part of the United States, part of Colorado, and they chose to come in that way.
Do you support the new school finance formula passed this last session? Why or why not? And are there any other changes to school funding that you support?
Oh, is it me? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes, Candidate Reeves.
Okay. That was kind of a mixed business, that bill. It was very complex. They crossed out many things before it got to the governor's desk, and then he just finally signed it here on the 23rd. One thing I liked about it was that it's implemented over 6 to 7 years. So if something is not working well, they can go back on it. I didn't like that the extra interest and income, quote, is credited as specified by the General Assembly. Then they added or remains in the permanent budget. They're once again trying to get around Tabor. No, extra money collected needs to go back to the taxpayer. And after, I would say, 2 years of that, okay, we're collecting too much money. This is above what we had decided we want.
Well, no.
Wanted to collect for education. So now we adjust our formula so that we're not.
Candidate Reeves, it seems like the connection is unstable. And I'll move
Excuse
to candidate. Oh, it seems like your connection was unstable. You were cutting in and out.
Oh, and you were too just now. I'm sorry. Okay. Uh, did you hear most of that or not?
I think we heard most of it, yes. Okay. Candidate Goon, same question.
And I would say in general, I agree with Kathy. The bill is very complex, and I think long-term and for the sake of tax dollars and administrations and teachers, that things should be simpler. There's a lot of formularies in there, and that what that does is it creates it creates rancor as people vie for position and try to get a little bit more here, a little bit more there by saying, well, what about these people? And what about these kids? And what about that? If you have school a voucher system, then the money just follows the kids. And you might do things like give more money for handicapped children, or more money for special needs children, or more money for those that are disadvantaged. But if they have the voucher system, then they take that money with them where they go. It makes it simple.
What is your position on ballot proposal number 89 titled Right to Abortion? Candidate Goon.
Oh, well, that ballot proposal it goes beyond the pale. I actually am a believer in a woman's right to choose up to the point of viability for the baby. At that point, I think it becomes a two people situation, and it's when does life begin? I'm willing to make a compromise and say that, we can probably all agree on that viability. I believe there should always be exceptions for medical problems with the woman, but those don't come all the time. Also, they're not necessarily as common as happens out there. Abortion has become far too common, a quick solution, and having abortion right up to the point of birth is nothing anybody else in the world does, and I don't believe Colorado should do it either.
Candidate Reeves.
I would say that all life is precious, and that I do believe in the sanctity of human life, beginning at conception. Now, I realize this is very different from most of Boulder County, but to codify this into the Constitution is just unreasonable, especially when the Declaration of Independence says that we're all created equal by our Creator with unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, look at the baby. Where's the life? Where's the pursuit of happiness if they're killed before they're ever born? So I'm very much against this proposal. It should be stopped at all costs. And I would also like to mention the right of conscience. Forcing us to pay for something we don't believe in is really evil as well. Thank you.
What legislative actions are needed to better support children and families in Colorado and to provide all Coloradans with access to basic needs, including food, housing, and healthcare? Candidate Reeves.
I believe the role of government is to provide an opportunity for everyone to work hard and to succeed, take away the barriers that keep everyone from succeeding, but not just provide lots of handouts. Now, we do have things like Medicare and Medicaid. Great, let's keep them. We have clinics that provide low cost or no cost on a sliding scale. Healthcare. We have food banks. We have homeless shelters. We have lots and lots. So to say that we have a deficit of those, especially here in Boulder, but really in Colorado, we're quite well provided for. And I feel sometimes people are just looking for more ways to do more things, whether there's really a huge need. We may have some people that are not taking advantage of things that are already available. Thank you.
Candidate Goon.
I too believe this is not the government's job to make certain that we're all living comfortably. This is if they create the space for justice and freedom from crime and the ability to function in society and start businesses and that sort of thing and make a living, that is its function. It is not to make everyone comfortable in their lives. They really, I know we're not in a situation that it's ever just going to go away, but it really should. They should stay as far out of our lives as they possibly can, because what they're doing is they're picking winners and losers. They're saying to me, if I want to support a niece or a nephew with all the extra money that I have, that no, I need to tax you and give it to these people who we've determined need it more than you. It's like, well, you don't have any clue what I'm trying to do. So, thank you.
Should the legislature address the rising costs of home insurance? What can be done? Candidate Goon.
Well, I think my last answer also answered this one. The government needs to stay out of business. It needs to stay out of insurance. It needs to stay away from it all. The rising cost of home insurance comes from the rising cost of housing. And it's really, they're trying to make a living. They come up with their formularies based on what it takes for them to earn a dollar properly in a way that's competitive with their own markets. And it is not the government's job to be in there trying to control homeowners insurance. It's a separate business. Why should they be in that any more than they should be in my hairdresser's business? They just shouldn't be there.
Candidate Reeves.
Yes, I would agree with Terry, and I would say that a free market society is going to, when not overregulated and hindered, is going to take care of that. You know, that the costs of houses are rising mainly due to inflation. Everything else is rising along with it, and insurance is just kind of following along because they need to. But if we have a strong economy, things will balance out, and the government should stay out of insurance.
Would you support the idea of looking into a different method of electing the Colorado legislature, which could provide more representation to various voting groups? It could involve larger districts with several representatives from each district and a different voting method, such as approval voting or a ranking method to determine the winners. Candidate Reeves.
Ranked choice voting is a bad idea. What we need is to choose our candidates by assembly. We need paper ballots. There are so many measures. The vote needs to be counted in the one day. But these ones that are being proposed, the three, I'm against, and I am in favor of the three. They're called the good initiatives that counteract all of those measures.
Candidate Goon.
You know, there's in the county of Boulder, the county commissioners, I wouldn't mind that being changed, but I don't think that has to do with the state legislation. Other than that, I would, if anything, I would make representation a smaller group of people. You mentioned 88,000 per district right now, and that's a lot of people to try to represent. So if anything, I would make more districts with further representation involved in it. Thanks. And I apologize for my camera. I don't know nothing changed except the light. So I don't know, it's getting darker.
Is collaboration a habit, a lofty goal that's rarely reached, or a dirty word? Candidate Goon.
Well, it's definitely a lofty goal, and it can be a habit. When when you're working with other people, that's one thing that you most of our good habits, our good features become habits. You want them to become habits. If you're used to working with people, that's a good thing. And you collaborate and you talk and you know that there's other ideas. I just mentioned representation and how 88,000 people is a lot of people to try to represent. And so by collaborating, you at least get some clue what people are thinking that you're representing. And it's important to collaborate with other districts and other counties, the whole thing, so that at the state level, you're getting things taken care of.
Candidate Reeves.
Yes, I think it can become a habit. And really, obviously, we've all worked with people who have different opinions, different backgrounds, and that's what you do. You talk about things. I like the phrase, let's reason together. Let's bring out whatever we want to talk about, bring it out on the table and talk about it. Let's listen. Let's speak. Let's show each other love and compassion and see what we come up with.
What measures would you support for Colorado to work towards climate resilience? Candidate Reeves.
Well, I would have to say that there is no climate crisis. I believe the science is being ignored on that topic. The climate extremists are wanting us to get rid of carbon dioxide, which is a ridiculous idea. We've got trees, we've got cows, we've got people, and for how many thousands of years we have needed carbon dioxide in our environment because the trees need it, and then they put off oxygen, and that's what we breathe. And we meat. I mean, there's some that don't, but largely humanity eats meat. And I think that really we're talking 400 parts per million. And if you take it down and down, well, you get to 150 parts per million, all of a sudden you've got a planet with no plant life on it. So I think what we need to do is stop that climate extremism.
Candidate Goon. Oh, you're on mute.
Climate is a worldwide situation, not a local situation. So while Colorado thinks it's helping with climate by trying to get rid of oil and gas and things like that, it's really not. It's not making any difference whatsoever. Not only have they not shown that actually functions or works to clean up the climate, it's just a small drop in the bucket, if anything. What I would do is focus on mitigating fire danger. We live in a high desert here in Colorado, and so that's an important feature of our climate, is that we need to mitigate fire danger. We need to work on pollution always, because the cleaner the air that we have, the more comfortable we're all living here in Colorado, along with the views and our breathing. So we do want those two things. But as far as the climate is concerned, we're picked winners and losers by choosing solar or wind over different things like nuclear or anything new.
And now for closing statements. We'll begin with Candidate Goon.
Well, I want to thank you for inviting us here today. That was kind. And obviously Kathy and I have a lot in common as far as our Republican ideals. I'm running for office here because I truly believe that we are overregulated. There's too much government in our lives, and we need to reduce it. I'm in Boulder County. I'm in Longmont, and as a Republican, I stand for those. I stand for those things. I think that if we could reduce the size of government, more people would get involved. They'd recognize that, no, I can't count on government to make certain that everybody is eating well. I need to do something. I need to do something. It helps all of us step up and realize that we have obligations to our neighbors. It's not up to the government to do that, because the government is taking from one and choosing their own priorities. That may not be mine or yours.
Candidate Reeves.
I just want to take a second to agree with what Terry said about people are generous when it's not forced on them. People are really very generous. But I invite you to stand with me for life, truth, and justice. Let's reduce taxes, stop wasteful spending, grow our economy by allowing small business to thrive. Let's put the rights of citizens ahead of the rights of criminals. Let's protect freedom of speech in every format, freedom of religion, and freedom to peacefully assemble. Let's protect the right of the people to keep and bear arms. In every case, when a law-abiding citizen was armed with comparable force, the intruder was stopped before it turned into a mass shooting. Those who are trying to take away your guns do not really care about your safety, but they are paving the way for a tyrannical government. So, okay. Okay, again, let me finish that. Anyone who is conservative and in hiding, come out, take a stand. Thanks.
On behalf of the League, I would like to thank our candidates for not only their participation in tonight's forum, but also for their participation in the democratic process. Running for office is hard work, and serving as an elected official is hard work, and we appreciate your efforts. And finally, thank you to the Boulder County voters participating as viewers. It's up to all of us to make sure we respect and work to protect our democratic processes. Too many people have struggled to win these rights for us not to use them. It starts with being an informed and active voter. Before signing off, I would like to alert voters that tonight's forum, as well as many others, will be available at the League's website, lwvbc.org, on our YouTube channel for the League of Women Voters of Boulder County, and vote411.org. Vote 411 is the League's premier voter information guide that supplies nonpartisan information on state and local candidates, ballot issues and questions, and much more. Resources available on Vote 411 are available in both English and Spanish. The League of Women Voters of Boulder County works throughout the year to help empower voters and defend democracy. If you would like to lend your time and skills to encourage civic engagement for all people in a nonpartisan manner, please join us. All the information you need is at www.lwvbc.org.